When I say Ubisoft, what are some games that come to mind? Most people will say games like Far Cry, Rainbow Six Siege, and maybe even Prince of Persia if you played it back in 2003. But what we've seen in recent years, especially in the last month, is a company that has no one to blame for their downfall other than themselves. Think about it, Ubisoft used to be synonymous with innovation and quality, creating some of the most beloved franchises in gaming. In the mid-2000s, they dominated with the Assassin's Creed series, reinventing what open-world games could be. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time was groundbreaking back in the day. Splinter Cell set new standards for stealth games, and Rayman was a platformer that rivaled the likes of Mario. They had everything: a diverse lineup, critical acclaim, and a reputation for pushing the envelope. Fast forward to today, and what do we see? A company mired in controversies, missed opportunities, and projects that seem to get delayed over and over again. Games like Skull and Bones have become a running joke, while titles like Ghost Recon Breakpoint were panned for being lifeless, bloated, and out of touch. This isn't the Ubisoft everyone once knew. It's a company scrambling to stay relevant, making decisions that seem driven more by financial anxiety than creative ambition. But how did Ubisoft end up in this situation? For that, we have to go back to the beginning. Ubisoft is one of the world's largest video game companies, known for its rapid rise and innovation. Founded in 1986 in Carentois, France, by 5 brothers of the Guillermo family, Christian, Claude, Gerard, Michel, and Yves Guillermo, the company originally started out as a game distribution business. They helped bring titles like Electronic Arts, Sierra Online, and Microprose to France, making them an essential part of the European gaming scene. By the late 1980s, they decided to make their own games and opened their first studio in Carentois, kicking off their development journey with Zombie, a survival horror game inspired by George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. In the 1990s, Ubisoft began to expand aggressively, setting up studios across France and later in Paris. This era laid the groundwork for its transformation into a major global publisher and developer. The company's first big hit came in 1995 with Rayman, a vibrant and challenging platformer created by Michel Ancel. Rayman became a defining game for Ubisoft, establishing it as a developer capable of creating high-quality, original titles that stood out from a crowded platformer genre. This period also saw the acquisition of Red Storm Entertainment in 2001, giving Ubisoft control over the Tom Clancy series, including Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon. These tactical shooters helped Ubisoft carve out a niche in realistic story-driven games as well. As the 2000s rolled on, Ubisoft scored another big success with Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time in 2003. This game was praised for its innovative time manipulation mechanics and fluid combat, revitalizing a franchise that had been dormant for years. However, it was in 2007 that Ubisoft truly struck gold with Assassin's Creed. Combining stealth, parkour, and historical storytelling, the series became a massive hit, laying the foundation of what would become one of the best-selling franchises in gaming history. This success allowed Ubisoft to expand further, establishing teams in Montreal, Shanghai, and Singapore, enabling them to work on multiple large-scale projects at once. From 2015 to 2018, Ubisoft faced one of its most significant challenges: a hostile takeover attempt by French media conglomerate Vivendi. Over the course of 3 years, Vivendi steadily bought up Ubisoft shares, threatening to take control of the company. It was a tense period, but in 2018, Ubisoft successfully fought back, reaching an agreement with Vivendi to buy back its shares and maintain its independence. This victory solidified the Guillermo family's control, but also marked the beginning of a shift in strategy. Ubisoft began to heavily focus on open world games and live service titles, with games like The Division and Rainbow Six Siege leading the charge. The idea was to keep players engaged for years rather than just months, with a steady stream of content updates and expansions. Unfortunately, things took a downturn in 2020 when Ubisoft was hit with a wave of misconduct allegations. Several high-ranking executives were accused of fostering a toxic work environment, leading to a major leadership shakeup. CEO Yves Guillermo promised widespread changes, but progress has been slow. These internal issues hurt morale and led to a creative standstill, just as the company was trying to shift gears. On top of this, Ubisoft struggled with production delays for some of the biggest titles. Games like Skull and Bones, announced back in 2017, became the definition of the dollar store version of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and Beyond Good and Evil 2 has become infamous for its endless delays and unclear direction. By 2023, Ubisoft decided it needed to rethink its approach. They announced that they would double down on their strengths, focusing on open world adventures and live service titles. Big upcoming releases like Assassin's Creed Shadows, set in feudal Japan, and Star Wars Outlaws, and open world games set in the Star Wars universe, were meant to get the company back on track and regain some of its former glory. With the company in a transformation stage, Ubisoft needed these titles to be hits, and without them, the company would slowly drive into bankruptcy. And it seems like that is the unfortunate reality they'll have to succumb to soon. A big part of the problem is Ubisoft's tendency to follow trends rather than set them. Remember when Ubisoft announced that they were getting into NFTs? They launched something called Quartz, only for it to be a complete flop. Players and even their own employees pushed back hard, but the fact that Ubisoft even attempted it shows how desperate they were to jump onto a new bandwagon. It's the same thing we saw with Hyperscape, their battle royale game that tried to mimic Fortnite and Apex Legends. It fizzled out within months, barely making a dent in a genre that's already saturated. And let's not forget about their fixation on an open world live service formula. It worked with Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey for a while, but when every single franchise starts to feel like it's cut from the same cloth, players get tired. Far Cry, Ghost Recon, and even The Division are all starting to blur together, offering massive maps filled with repetitive tasks that felt more like a chore than an adventure. Sure, they still look good, but there's no spark, no sense of magic or freshness that made Ubisoft's earlier games so special. Even Rainbow Six Siege, one of their rare success stories, was almost buried by their mishandling. It launched in a rough state in 2015, and it took a huge effort to turn it around to one of the best tactical shooters out there. But Ubisoft's other attempts to tap into esports and live service markets, like XDefiant and the ill-fated Roller Champions, haven't found similar success. These feel like hollow imitations, lacking in depth and polish to compete with genre giants. Then you have games releasing recently like Star Wars Outlaws, and it might be one of the most mid games of 2024. For all the hype it received, it bombed. Critics were initially optimistic due to the Star Wars name, but it ended up being a huge letdown. The launch was plagued with technical issues, uninspired gameplay, and a failure to deliver on its ambitious promises. The stealth mechanics are clunky, and the AI is terrible, and it quickly became repetitive after a few hours of play. Despite the few positives like the graphics and the world design, the game received mediocre scores across the board, with a 76 on Metacritic and a below average 5.4 from user reviews. Ubisoft seemed to think that the Star Wars brand would carry the game to success, but players expected more substance than polish. Instead, Star Wars Outlaws felt like a rushed, half-baked attempt to chase trends rather than create a genuinely good game. The disappointment was so severe that it even prompted Ubisoft to rethink its approach on Assassin's Creed Shadows, delaying it to February 2025 in an effort to avoid a similar disaster. Then, as I'm recording this, the Ubisoft CEO commented on the poor sales of the Star Wars Outlaws, attributing it to the gamers' high expectations. He mentioned that delivering just solid quality is no longer enough and that audiences are demanding more, leading to underwhelming reception for games like Outlaws. Oh, I'm sorry, Ubisoft. Is the solid quality the fact that you had people pay over $100 to play Star Wars Outlaws early, only to be met with a game-breaking glitch and they couldn't play until launch day, them wasting money that you never refunded? And that's just one example. Ubisoft's problem isn't just one bad game, it's that they keep making the same mistakes over and over and over. Their focus on bloated, repetitive game design, trying to squeeze every last dollar out of each title instead of innovating and refining. The result? Players have started expecting mediocrity from a company that was once known for pushing boundaries. Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot recently sent a memo to the company's staff outlining the challenges Ubisoft has been facing, which included delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows and addressing the underwhelming reception of Star Wars Outlaws. Guillemot acknowledged that Star Wars Outlaws had a softer than expected launch, despite solid reviews, citing a Metacritic score of 76, but also highlighting a disappointing user rating of the 5.4 users. He also announced that Assassin's Creed Shadows will now launch on February 14th, 2025, instead of its original release date, to ensure a smoother experience on day one, with extra time allocated for polishing and adding new quests. But the real reason this decision was made was following recent backlash over cultural inaccuracies and technical criticisms, which have led Ubisoft to pulling out of the Tokyo Game Show last minute. Guillemot used this memo to stress that Ubisoft's goal is not to push any specific agenda, but rather than deliver top-notch entertainment, making it clear that there have been recent setbacks, but if they can perform on these setbacks is yet to be seen. With Ubisoft facing that increased backlash for how it treats its employees, particularly in regards to underpayment and the firing of experienced staff, over the past 18 months, Ubisoft laid off more than 1,700 employees as part of a cost-cutting initiative, despite recording record revenues of 2.32 billion euros. This mass reduction in workforce has hit various departments, including global publishing and production support teams, which has sparked concerns about the company's direction and stability. The layoffs have been accompanied by ongoing employee dissatisfaction over pay. In early 2024, 700 Ubisoft employees in France went on strike, following the failed salary negotiations. Ubisoft's cost-cutting strategy seems to be primarily focused on reducing its experienced workforce and cutting benefits. This has created a gap in expertise, as many veteran developers are either leaving voluntarily or being let go, which ultimately affects the quality of the games that they are producing. Meanwhile, newer hires or remaining staff are often underpaid and overworked, making it challenging for the company to maintain the high standards expected in its flagship franchises like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry. As recently as this week, Yves Guillemot is currently facing pressure from a growing number of shareholders who are dissatisfied with his leadership and the company's recent struggles. The main driving force behind the movement is a minority shareholder group led by AJ Investments. This group has criticized the Guillemot family and Tencent, who currently hold significant stakes in the company, for mishandling Ubisoft's direction and undervaluing its shares. The shareholders' dissatisfaction stems from a number of factors, including underperformance of recent titles like Star Wars Outlaws and XDefiant, and the continued decline of Ubisoft's share value, which has dropped over 50% in the past year alone. AJ Investments argues that the Guillermo family and Tencent are using this decline to buy more shares at lower prices, which could lead to them gaining full control of the company at a discount. This tactic has angered minority shareholders, who felt left out and want to see new leadership in a team that can restore Ubisoft's value and reputation. To address these concerns, the investors have called for the removal of Yves Guillermo and suggested taking Ubisoft private, with Tencent remaining as a partner. The proposal also includes selling off non-core studios, focusing on key franchises like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and streamlining the company to improve efficiency. In response to the mounting pressure, Guillermo announced a formal board review to evaluate Ubisoft's current strategies and leadership structure. This review could lead to significant changes at the executive level, and potentially even the exit of the Guillermo family from the company if they fail to convince shareholders of their ability to turn things around. It's sad to see, because Ubisoft was once a company that dared to dream big. They were the ones who created historical worlds in Assassin's Creed, took risks with new ideas in Child of Light and Valiant Hearts, and didn't just follow the crowd. But now, they seem stuck, recycling old ideas and chasing trends that have already passed them by. The magic that made Ubisoft great is fading. If they don't course correct soon, they'll risk becoming a cautionary tale. A once great company that lost its way by trying to be everything to everyone and ended up pleasing no one. The sad reality is, when people think of Ubisoft now, it's not just about the games. It's about the delays, controversies, and a sense that they've lost what made them unique. And if they don't find a way to reignite that spark, they'll be left behind in an industry that's already moving on. It goes back to something that I saw when I was recording today on Tuesday that Ubisoft said. Oh, it's not good game quality anymore. What? It is the most brain dead thing that I think anyone has ever said. And we had high expectations for Star Wars Outlaws because we have high expectations for Ubisoft. And that's one of the things that it seems to have passed them by, is that they don't care anymore. Or at least if they do, they don't really show it. And it's been for the past few years now that we see Ubisoft as just this company that really sucks. There's no better way of saying it. But all we ask is that maybe they can right the ship. Assassin's Creed looks like the same game every single time the next time you play it. And I remember playing the OG Assassin's Creeds and how much fun they had. But when you completely do the same formula over and over again, it's hard to really go out there and say, oh, I'm going to buy Assassin's Creed again when I have Assassin's Creed at home. You know, it's one of those things where I don't know where the direction of Ubisoft's going, and it looks like it's going to just be too far too late. And maybe there's a new regime that can sort of revive Ubisoft, but if you're asking for my personal opinion, I think Ubisoft is dead. But I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell for future notifications. Tell me about your favorite Ubisoft game or how Ubisoft can get better in the comments section. And subscribe, please. Just please subscribe. But other than that, I hope you guys do enjoy the video, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.